record. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for being on today. This is our monthly leadership call, and we're doing it during the day for a schedule snafu, but we really appreciate you being on. And those of you that are watching the replay, thank you for catching the replay. So we're so excited, you guys. This month and for the rest of the year, we're going to be focusing on discipline and gratitude as a team. We think that these are really important activities, not only for your business, but just for your life, for a happy, fulfilling, impactful life. And they're really important to us, and we're just excited to keep talking about those with everybody. And when we were talking about this leadership call, one rep came to mind as someone who just exudes these qualities in everything she does, and that's Bethany Glines. She has been with us. Bethany, you'll have to tell your start date in just a second. She's a senior director, and she is just absolutely crushing this business. She not only just shows up regularly in business activities, she tops the leaderboard almost every single month in sales, reps, both. But she is so disciplined in the way that she lives her life. She's a mom of 5. 2 of those kids are twins. So she's super busy. I think they're all under the age of 7, so 5 under 7, which is just, if you're a mom, that is a lot. But, we really just admire you, Bethany, and the way that you live your life. So you show up every day. It's not perfect. I think you make that something that you talk to your network about a lot, like just showing up however you can show up, whether your kids are around you, whether you only have 5 minutes to do your business, whether, you're showered or messy or whatever, just showing up is what matters. And we're really inspired by you. So she's going to chat a little bit with you guys today about discipline. And if you guys have questions, feel free to use the chat as we go. So Bethany, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, sounds good. I started November, or it was like October 25th, 2020.
November 25th? That's my birthday.
I think that's what it was. I'll have to go back and check. But okay. And then I got launched in November and all that. But I was like the laziest rep for 7 months. And I don't know, lazy is not the right word. I was too cool for it. So I was just going to link products that I was way too cool to build a team. Like I didn't go to one team call. Like I was like, I won't do that. That's below me. And that's just being completely honest. So I really didn't start working the business until last May. And then I don't know really what happened last May, but something switched over for me and I realized like I could actually do this. But I think my background too, so I'm a licensed therapist and I work a lot with anxiety and depression. And so my background comes a lot with cognitive behavioral therapy. And so I do cognitive behavioral therapy on myself 24/7. I can tell you at all points of time what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and the resulting behaviors that are coming from that. And so that has happened just from like years of training my mind to be in my mind. So constantly to be thinking about what I'm thinking about. And with that, to then learn to check my thoughts. So there is not a thought or a feeling that I just give. In our house, we consider it like you don't just give way to it. You decide what feeling you're going to keep going with. And then the thought that comes after this. And we talk about this stuff my poor 3-year-old's like, I don't want to do this, Mom. I'm like, I don't care. You can go to therapy when you're older to talk about how your mom made you do this. But also on the topic of discipline, it makes people extremely uncomfortable. And the more disciplined you are and the more you exude those qualities, you are going to naturally be cutting off a group of people that are going to feel uncomfortable with you. And that's something that I've had to come to terms with is the more I've grown in discipline and the more like no excuse mentality, it marginalizes you. And it's going to make family uncomfortable with you. It's going to make friends uncomfortable with you. And if you guys have followers on social media, it's going to make them uncomfortable with you too. But something that I always remind myself is someone else feeling uncomfortable when they're listening to me or talking to me is nothing about me. It's everything about them. And that doesn't mean you're rude, but realizing too, the more disciplined you become, that's going to come out and it's going to make people feel uncomfortable. And if they're not in the right mind space, they're going to want to push you away and put that back on you. So that's something that I have to keep check on, is a lot of times people try to put that back on me. And so stopping and thinking like, is this about me? Is this something I can be doing differently? Or is this where they are mentally and they have to have that space to process that? So I don't even, it's such like a big topic, but something, and I wrote it, and you guys, my kids soaked it in milk, literally. It's like wet. I can't even read it, but that's okay. But a couple of like key turning points for me over the years has been the concept of, we constantly say things like, I should do this. So like, I should get up and journal and read my Bible and do personal development and pray, and I should do this. And the list can go on and on and on. And there has to come a time when you shift that should to I must, because it's way too easy to be like, I should be doing this. This is something that's really important for my overall health. But the more you add those shoulds, you're just adding to the list in the back of your mind, which keeps you in your back brain. So your back brain is your fight or flight. Everybody's going to be different, but the more we pile on the shoulds, we are not operating in our prefrontal cortex, which is up here. So this is the part of our brain that says, I'm an adult. I have a choice what I want to do. And as we pile on those shoulds, those lists, we're not operating up here, we're back here, which is our brain's way of keeping us safe. So if you think about like a rabbit, when a rabbit is scared, they run away. And so every time we pile on the I should be doing this, all we're doing is going into the fight or flight mode, and our brain's going to protect itself. And a lot of times that looks like shrinking back or sleeping in or not stepping out and trying something new, because I think God created us to protect ourselves think about like prey, like natural instinct. So thinking of it that way, of making that shift from, I really should be working on my business consistently to I must work on my business consistently. My family depends on me. They need me. And I know I have the personal experience too of every kid we had, I cut back in hours of my job. And so inevitably what happened with that is our income got smaller and smaller, but our kids got older and bigger, and there were more of them. And so financially for us, things got tighter and tighter and tighter because I wanted to be home. That was a priority for me. And so for me, when I say I must get up and work in my business, it legitimately is that you don't have an option, Bethany. Get up, work on your business. Your family needs this. And I know not everybody is in that position too, but that helps me to not make those excuses. I think another really big thing that's been helpful for me, and I've done this for years with clients, but if you ask, and you guys can do this with like your kids or your friends, ask them to make a list of their top 5 priorities or top 10. You're going to see people put all sorts of things, but the trend that I've noticed is nobody ever puts the relationship with themselves. They'll put the relationship with their husband, they'll put their relationship with their kids, with their family, their jobs, their hobbies, their like physical health, but not many people put the concept and idea of the priority of that relationship with yourself. And I think if you can make that switch of, and I know this is like contrary, I think, to a lot of how moms, for those of us who are moms, think of life, that if you are not putting yourself and your relationship with yourself first, every single other thing in your life is going to suffer. So that's why for me, ever since I've had kids, I have made a non-negotiable of the first thing I do is I get up and I read my Bible and I journal. And a lot of times that looked like, because I have really bad anxiety. So I've always kept our babies in our room with us until my husband's like, get them out. But that's looked like me with my flashlight in my bed, journaling and reading my Bible for like the last 7.5 years. That's been me. And that has been me putting myself as a priority and learning if I don't do that, my husband gets a crappier wife and my kids get an irritable, upset mom. For me, that also looks like my physical fitness is an absolute 100% priority, because if I feel confident about myself, I don't think about myself. So that for the area of discipline is when I'm taking care of myself, I become invisible. And I want to be invisible because I want everyone around me to feel the effects of what it's like to be loved by a sister, a friend, a mom, someone selling them leggings by someone who's not doing it for their own personal gain, but because they care about them. So it kind of is like that holistic view of I want to become nothing. I want to see everybody as more significant than myself. And for me, the only way to do that has to become relentless in taking care of myself. so that I get up, I get my stuff done, and the rest of the day, it doesn't matter what happens because I already pushed my business forward. I already took care of my fitness, my heart health. I've already spent time in the word. I've already journaled. I've already done personal development. I don't care what happens with the rest of my day. I can give it away. I think something too, and you guys obviously are directors and above, so you guys have teams, but a lot of people are trying to build their skills in the business. So how do I sell more in parties? How do I build my network? How do I do this? How do I work on copy editing? All this stuff, but they haven't actually gotten their mind right. And I think that basis of, if you want to be disciplined in your business, you have to start with disciplining your mind. So you can listen to all the recordings and the trainings you want in the world, but until you get relentlessly disciplined in how you approach the business, it's not going to matter or make a difference much, because the second you get that first rejection, you're going to check out, or you're going to shrink back. And I mean, I do this all the time. Whenever I get a ton of negative feedback on Instagram, I pull back. And then it takes me a couple of days to kind of get my gumption up again. But something that's really helped me with that is a hard, fast mentality. If you live for the approval of others, you'll die by the rejection of others. And that's something I consistently remind myself of every time I get a snark or a troll, is like, I'm not living my life for the approval of this person that doesn't matter. This isn't what I'm about. But you have to get your mind right. And this is like a super cheesy phrase, that you got to get your mind right before you get your grind. So if you want to grind, and my husband and I, we call ourselves grit grinders. Like, we've never been the best at anything, but we work really hard. So if you want to get your grind right, you got to get your mind right. So thinking about, what do I need to do in my mind before I attack those business things? And two, something with the switching from I should be doing this to I must, is there also has to be a shift somewhere along the way. And again, this is why I say the topic of discipline makes people uncomfortable, because it pokes at things, but there has to be a point where you get to where you realize consistency is great, but there has to be a sense of urgency behind it. Is I can get up and be lethargically consistent, but unless there's a little bit of a fire there and an urgency, it's going to come off very bland and it's going to get boring. And I don't really like this. And that's something I've been thinking about in the last 6 months. I transitioned out of my job and started a private practice with counseling. And so I'm working barely. But I get up on fire every single day with an urgency. And I think a phrase, I listen to these mindset coachings too, but something that they said is, if you had the goals that I have, you'd be getting out of bed too. And so realizing, if you have some goals, let that urgency come, let it light a fire, and then actually try to go get them. And you're going to fail so many times, but beginning to accept that when you put yourself out there, you're going to fail. And that's a good thing. Because when you fail, it hurts and it stings. And that's another reason to get up the next morning earlier than you did the morning before and put the work in. And I think too, learning to be a person of integrity with yourself is really important. Is I think of who do I want to be? I'm going to die one day, right? This is getting very deep, but that's the reality. And what I want to be is a hero in my own home. I think about, that's the only legacy that's going to matter. I want to be a hero in my own home. So we're working a business, right? What does that have to do with the business? I want my kids to know what it's like to be raised by a mom who was fearless, and by a mom who prioritized her relationship with the Lord and her family above anything else. And that means I also want to be I have goals. I tell my team this and they make fun of me, but I'll say it. I would love to be the top seller that Zaya ever had. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And I want my kids to know and to be a hero to them of seeing what it looked like to have a mom who didn't give a crap about what anybody thought about her and just did it. And so that's kind of that, being that person of integrity of, if I'm going to follow through with what I said, I want to be the top seller that Zaya ever had. If I want to follow through with that, then I have to be a person of integrity and keep my word. And I think that's where it's important too. What are your actual goals? Is it just to what are they? Name them, and not just your month-to-month goals, but the goal of this whole business. Mine's probably not going to happen, and that's fine, but I'm going to get up and work every single day like it will happen. Because something too is, if I want to get there, I have to act like I'm already there today. So my mindset and my discipline has to be that I'm already number one as I ever had. So I'm very far from that now, but I'm going to act like I'm already there today. So mentally, when I get up, I put my hat on and I have my little checklist of to-dos. And I act like I'm already there, because I will never get there until I start acting like I'm there. And that's that mental process of relentlessly pursuing the disciplines of what do I need to do to get there, and then making no excuses about what you need to do. And that goes with the question of like asking yourself, who do you want to be? I want to be a hero in my home. That's why I'm doing this. I want my kids to have a legacy of faith and also a legacy of knowing what it's like to have a fearless mom. And I think too, I've said this before so many times, but what you're not changing, you're choosing. So if your business is lacking, it's not because somebody else is luckier than you. It's because you're choosing some habits that aren't benefiting you. And like if you, let's say you're out of customers and you've reached out to everybody and nobody wants to host a party, you can go find 30 people on Instagram and start messaging them. So like, what do you want to do? Because what you're not changing, you're choosing. So even ask yourself, what am I choosing right now? Am I choosing to be fearless, or am I choosing to just be comfortable? And the thing is there's going to be stages of life where being comfortable is just fine. Because I look back at like my journey with Zaya, for 7 months, I needed to be comfortable in the business before I felt like I could step out and be a little bit more fearless. And that was just a stage of life. Like I wasn't on my meds yet again. And that was a huge part of it. But also I had 2 newborns at home and like a 1-year-old, like a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. I don't even know, but I needed to just be comfortable. And so even just realizing you're going to have stages of life where comfort is okay. Sometimes it's okay to be sit and still and grow in that. But then this is where checking in with yourself is good and being like, am I ready to put the gas down? And that's something consistently asking myself. I know for me, am I where I want to be right now? No, I feel like I'm barely tapping the gas pedal, but I'm growing every day and I'm getting to that point. I don't know what full gas pedal is going to look like for me, but I'll never get there if I don't keep tapping that gas pedal little by little. So that's what I have on my milk stained notes so far.
I love that they're milk stained. I think that's perfect. Thank you so much. Do you guys have any questions for Bethany? If you do, feel free to unmute. And I'll just say a few things. Where you started with, when you're disciplined, you cut out a group of people. Oh, that's so big. And also when you talk about how even the topic of discipline makes people itchy and uncomfortable, do you guys feel that too? I mean, I feel that way as well. And I think it's because when we bring up the topic of discipline, you immediately go, at least me, I immediately go to where I'm lacking in discipline. And so it kind of feels like an attack. It's like the word discipline, like I always feel like, oh God, I could, where could I be better here? But I think that if you have areas in your life where you'd like to be more disciplined, which I think we all do, getting in touch with your thoughts is where Bethany started this conversation, is so important. And remembering to check in with yourself, like, what are you thinking about? I love how you talk about what are you thinking about at all times? Why are you thinking that? And how can you change that? Don't you think that's key, Bethany?
I do. Yeah. And I think it goes we have to be renewing our thoughts. We have and this is what's really hard, is no one's going to do that for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is nobody fighting that battle, because nobody knows the thoughts going on in your head. And you can lay down and die and be a victim and a martyr, but you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are a conqueror. You have not been given a spirit of fear. And these are the things I tell myself, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So I'm going to claim who I actually am, or am I going to sit in the lies that I believe about myself? And I know too, at one point I'm going to post this video, but I'm not quite there yet. But I did a fitness instructor training this past winter. And you had to list a list of words that you believe about yourself. And I'll just be straight up honest. Mine was like, stupid, not smart enough. It was really like graphically bad. But I wanted to get that stuff out. And then you had to like pop a balloon and then a word would come out. So I popped a balloon and they sent this out to like 400 people, and you didn't know what your word was going to be, and it was like for those of you who have a background in the church, a very charismatic ministry. So they were all about like the Holy Spirit led, which I didn't grow up that way, and it's okay. But the word I got was builder. And so, I'm writing on the outside of the balloon all of these horrible thoughts I have about myself. And the word that came out was builder. And I was really disappointed because I had sat back and I'd watched the other words that other women had gotten, and they were like empowering and strong. And I was like, builder. Like, I don't want this word. Like, I want a cool word. But sitting back and like, it's been 3 months, I think, since I popped that balloon, and thinking about like, for me, it's that process of that mentally building, like building slowly, brick by brick. For those of you who have read Slight Edge, it happens brick by brick by brick until all of a sudden you have that wall built.
And building your family and your body and your business. And I think it's a great word for you.
It's not a pretty word, but it's basic.
A gritty word. It is gritty. It's a doing word. I think it's a wonderful word for you. I mean, there's so many words for you, Bethany. You're an amazing woman, and we're so blessed to have you on this team, leading the way and leading by example. If you guys don't follow Bethany on Instagram, she is so motivating. She kicks my butt mentally every time I read her stuff and see her stuff. It's like, all right, I can do this. She is so good at transferring that energy to you when you watch it. Do you guys have any questions for her? I mean, I could keep talking. I had one more thing. When you talked about your list of 5 priorities, this was a cool connection. It maybe has been a year or so, when Jeremiah Bradley, I don't remember if it was a team call or corporate call or something, but he talked about how about every 3 or 4 months he brings his kids separately, one-on-one with him, and he asks what they think his top 5 priorities are, and it's a check-in to make sure that what they think of their dad is who he's trying to be. And I did that exercise with my kids, and it was so powerful. And I know, the priority with yourself was sort of the point of that, but it just made me remember that. I love that exercise, especially, as we're, moms and wanting to make sure that our kids understand our priorities as we're building this business and going through life. It was just a really cool activity. So I recommend that. Yes, Bethany reminds people you're never too busy. If she can do it, so can we. It's about being intentional, right?
It is. And you have to know what you want and then just go get it, because nobody's going to go get it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like my son's in a soccer tournament right now, and it's called the USA Cup. And so it's teams from all over the world. And today they're going to play a team that beat a team they lost to yesterday, 14-0. So anyways, they're going to get crushed right now. The game's in like a half hour. So I'm going to go watch my son get crushed. Literally, they're going to probably lose by like 20. So I was pumping him up, and I was like, Hudson, no one's going to fight this battle for you. Like, go out and fight, because you got to be proud of yourself. At the end of the day, be proud of yourself. You may lose 20-0, but you have to go to sleep at night and be proud of who you are. And that's that integrity of have integrity with yourself and be a person that you like. And if you're not, do the work that it's going to take to get there.
You're not going to win all your fights, but you have to fight all your fights. Did you guys hear Damon West, his podcast on Ed Mylett? So amazing. He went to prison. He was sentenced to prison for 65 years, and he turned his whole life around. And if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It goes really well with what Bethany's talking about. But this was so good, Bethany. I'm fired up. I highlighted, if you have the goals I had, you'd be getting up on fire too. I think that for probably 90% of the women on this team and in this industry, we are afraid to put our real goals down on paper. Like it's scary. Those big, hairy, audacious goals, those are scary and intimidating. And so we don't even allow ourselves to fully go there. But going there is what allows you to have the fire to keep getting up and chasing them. So it's kind of like that needs to come first. So if you've never sat down and journaled like your scariest, biggest goals that you feel like you will never get, but if you could get, those are the goals you have, I recommend it. It's kind of it's very empowering, and it's scary, and it feels really good. Like I feel like anxious even thinking about it, to be honest. But I think that's a really good thing for everybody to try. Okay, anything else, guys? All right. Bethany, thank you so much. Good luck to your son.
Thank you, Bethany.
It's gonna be something.
We appreciate you. And thank you guys for being on the call. I'll post the recording in just a bit.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody. Have a good day.